What's going on, everyone? So we're all waiting around for Bradley Beal. What was going to happen with Bradley Beal? When was he going to get bought out? Who is he going to sign with? There were several teams that were linked to Bradley Beal. The two teams that I thought made the most sense, just easy, slot in, be the starter, plug and play type, were the Los Angeles Clippers and the Milwaukee Bucks. Well, Bradley Beal gets bought out. He ends up going to the Los Angeles Clippers on a 2-year, $11 million contract. We'll dive into all the pros and cons here in a moment, but the Phoenix Suns, what this does for them is it gives them a ton of flexibility now as far as various trades and stuff. This puts them under the aprons. So now that they're not handcuffed and trying to kind of retool, revamp this roster on the fly. So they greatly benefit by getting off of Bradley Beal's contract, kind of, stretching that out, get him off the books, right? Now they can kind of focus, repivot, and reshift. This was something that we knew was going to happen, especially after they went and got Jalen Green, right? It didn't work with Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal. It wasn't going to work with Devin Booker, Jalen Green, and Bradley Beal because at least Kevin Durant is 7 feet, right? So at least you can slot him in at the 3 or the 4 and kind of make that a better fit, even though it wasn't a great fit. But also you add in the fact that, hey, Devin Booker, Jalen Green, and Bradley Beal literally are all like the same size and play the same role and are the same type of player. That was never going to work. So it's already going to be weird. Maybe it works, but it's probably going to be a little clunky with Devin Booker and Jalen Green. We'll see. Time will tell. But you add in Bradley Beal to the mix, it just didn't make sense. So Phoenix needed to get off of Bradley Beal. This made the most sense. They were never going to be able to trade him. It's kind of a win-win for all sides. Now the Suns drop under the apron. They made some nice moves this offseason. They're kind of trying to retool, retweak this roster and try to get back into being a playoff team and maybe a contender, within the next 2 years or so, especially with Devin Booker. He's getting older. So you're going to have to figure that out. For the Los Angeles Clippers, the roster's stacked now, right? This is a huge pickup. You got, in your starting five now, you got James Harden, Bradley Beal, Kawhi Leonard, John Collins, and Ivica Zubac, right? That is ridiculous on paper. We'll see how that meshes, though. How does that work, right? The only team that I looked at that was like, okay, he just goes there and he can be Bradley Beal was the Milwaukee Bucks, right? Because he could slot into that Damian Lillard role, be kind of the primary scoring option alongside Giannis. I don't think there would be any conflict or anything like that. But you look at the Clippers, which yes, was the best kind of slot in starting two, right, for them. But James Harden's going to be the point guard, so he's going to have the ball in his hands most of the time. Kawhi Leonard isn't really known as a passer, right? He's kind of more known as a black hole. So if he gets the ball, how often is he going to be passing Bradley Beal? So how much is Bradley Beal going to be playing off ball compared to on ball? How is that going to work? I'm not saying it won't. I'm not saying they won't be able to figure it out. I do think it's a better natural fit than what the Phoenix Suns were because James Harden can just defer and be the point guard, right? And he's already shown the decline in the scoring, so that kind of helps. He can still go off on any given night, but he's kind of accepted in the later years being that playmaker point guard, right? So I think that he'll operate as that. You have Bradley Beal kind of operate as a 2 guard. He can still make plays and stuff, and then Kawhi Leonard will be Kawhi Leonard. And then you also look at their bench. It's like Chris Dunn. They have Nicholas Batum. They have Derrick Jones Jr., Brook Lopez. Right? You start going down the list of this team, and it's like, man, they are stacked. They have a very good, very deep, very talented team. They're easily 10 to 12 guys deep. So they're going to be a very good basketball team. To what level? That I don't know yet. Right? Because on paper, they look like one of, if not the best teams in all of basketball. You just look at the names on that roster. It's insane. The depth, the talent, all of that. But we have seen that talent doesn't always make everything. Clippers were already talented last year. They were already deep and versatile and all that stuff. And they hung their hat on the defensive side of things. They were one of the best defensive teams in all of basketball, right? Adding in a Bradley Beal, right, and James Harden in your backcourt, now you don't have that defense that you had, with a Dunn or a Derrick Jones Jr. or things like that. So now teams are going to be attacking and going at James Harden and Bradley Beal. Are they going to be able to hold their own defensively? John Collins, he has the potential to be a really good defensive player, but he can kind of check out on the defensive side at times, right? So how will that balance? How will that work? There is a potential where they are the best team in all of basketball. Very easily, right? There is a version of that roster and that team where they are just running through everybody. There's also a version of that team that, there's also the sense of the Clippers. For me with the Clippers personally, right? It's, I can't believe in you until I see it. Every year, literally the last 15 years, dating back to the beginning of Lob City, right? every year it's the Clippers are the best team in basketball. You know, they're one of the top teams. They're going to do this, that, and the other. Oh my God, they got, you know, now Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and all this. And then they get James Harden. And then every year on paper, the Clippers look like one of, if not the best teams in basketball. Every year, the media and people, somebody picks them to win the NBA championship. And every year, they are a first or second round exit, right? So how does James Harden hold up health-wise? How does Bradley Beal hold up health-wise? How does Kawhi Leonard hold up health-wise? Now, I get you could argue that for any team. However, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, and Bradley Beal have not been models of health recently. You know, James Harden more so, but also he disappears in the playoffs. What does he look like come playoff time? Now, you could argue you have Bradley Beal to kind of offset that better. But again, there's a lot of questions with that team. Now, for the rest of the teams, I think now they look to go pivot and go get guys like a DeAnthony Melton, a Joshua Okogie, like things like that, to where, you know, teams like the Warriors, the Lakers, the Bucks, right? Like these teams probably going to go pivot and try to go get some of these other guys. You know, some of those teams, maybe they take a flyer on a Damian Lillard. But the thing about Damian Lillard, he can't play this year. So anybody that's signing him is really signing him for next season. So they're trying to get him on the roster just so that way, you know, you have him next year type thing before he goes and another team takes him. So we'll see how that regard goes. But I know people are going to ask like, oh, well, then just go sign Damian Lillard. But you got to keep in mind, Damian Lillard cannot play this year, or he's probably not going to play this year, and it wouldn't make any sense to try to rush him back to play. Best case scenario, he comes back by playoffs, but at that point, the team he's on is either who they are and good enough to go win it, and do you really want to throw Damian Lillard in the mix of that? Probably not. Or you're not good enough and you're hoping Damian Lillard is coming up. But at that point, like if you're not good enough, you're not good enough. So you might as well just like leave it and then try to recalibrate the following season. So we'll see how this all kind of plays out. But look, I think that this is great for Bradley Beal. I think this is great for the Los Angeles Clippers. I think that this is, great for the Phoenix Suns. I think this is one of the best outcomes for all of these teams. Right? I think that this puts Bradley Beal in a winning situation. It gives him the starting position. He can kind of get back to a version of himself. What is that version? But I mean, even last year, right? As bad as he was, you know, in people's eyes and perspective, he still was a 17-4-4 guy, right? Like off the bench, right? On 50% shooting. Like that's still really good. So I do think that that'll work out, but we'll see. Time will tell, and we'll see how this all plays out for the Clippers and Bradley Beal. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out, so we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.